Good afternoon, Northwest Indiana. How's everybody doing today? As you may have seen, if you were here bright and early, this is a special episode of Great News Weekly with your host, Jenny Craig Brown, and greatnews.life. So if you have never tuned in before, we do these shows every Wednesday live on Northwest Indiana Life, LaPorte County Life, and Valpo Life. We also put it up on Spotify. So if you can't listen noon live, you can also tune in later for on Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the podcast land. So you can tune in later or now, whatever you prefer. And as I mentioned, we have a special episode. So in honor of Ruth Bader Ginsburg and her recent passing, we have a really incredible episode for you today that's all about awesome females in our world and some female empowerment. So come on in, grab something. I feel like you need to be drinking or eating something super cute and delicious that you love. Let's enjoy all of this time. It's going to be fantastic. And come share some good news with me. If you are new to the show, we have these things that we call lifelines. And even on a special edition like today, I still want them. So a lifeline is your little piece of good news. So what's happening in your world that you want to share with everybody? It could be seeing a friend you haven't seen for a while, or just someone doing something nice for you, that person that paid for your Starbucks in front of you, whatever it is, we want to hear about it. So if you're watching live, comment below and tell us just a quick little note of your cool lifeline, and hopefully we'll read it on the show. Or if you are not watching live and you are listening later, you can also email your lifelines to share@greatnews.life, and those will come to us and hopefully we'll read them on a future show. So tell me what's good happening in your life. I love the engagement, and I also want to hear all your thoughts on the awesome segments that we have today, because as I mentioned, special episode. So you guys can get kind of all of the empowerment that you could ever imagine right here in our studio at greatnews.life. So first up, I am going to get right into it because I'm really excited. So first up, we have a very close, what do the cool kids say? We have a very cool friend of the pod, or friend of Great News Weekly, here today to kick off our awesome special ladies edition. Check out who it is here. Well, everybody, welcome to the show, Robin Rock from 93.9 Light FM. Hi, Robin. Thanks for joining us today.
Oh my gosh. Thank you I'm joining you from my home studio. As you can see, I've got some fancy digs here. I mean, moving blankets and PVC pipe, but it works.
It works really well. You sound fantastic. So whatever you're doing, it's perfect.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
So we're going to, for all of the listeners and the viewers, we are going to totally flip the switch today. So today, instead of me interviewing Robin, Robin is going to interview me. So we recently, as most have maybe heard or seen, we recently launched All About the Girls, the podcast. And Robin, you were part of All About the Girls, the event. And then you're also part of All About the Girls, the podcast during the launch. So if anybody hasn't, your episode is already out there. So apparently we're going to talk a little bit more about that, and you're going to interview me, right?
I'm pretty excited about that. And I love that. I mean, because that's how it's been. I mean, you've been interviewing me, so I kind of get a chance to flip the tables. And Can I just tell everybody how excited I am, because you do such a great job. So I don't know if I can live up to your expectations, but I'm give it a try.
You're already far beyond them, but thank you.
I don't know about that. All right. So I want to ask you about All About the Girls. So how did that get started? What led you to All About the Girls and getting that rolling?
Yeah, so it's been about 6 or 7 years now ago. We started All About the Girls. It was literally over a conversation that I had with our CEO, Chris Malman. And he said, you seem to surround yourself and you're continually meeting these really incredible women in our region. But how do we spotlight them, highlight them, and shout them out even more? And so kind of that one conversation stemmed into All About the Girls, the event, which we had the first year was at Industrial Revolution with about 50 people. And we were really just trying to bring strong women together to hopefully be a motivating force for other women and hopefully grow that kind of group of strong women together. And then, of course, learning more about podcasts and COVID in general has brought me to the podcast version. So we'll still have that event, but we wanted to supplement it with the podcast as well so we can have ongoing motivation instead of just once a year.
Okay, and I was going to ask you about that podcast, because what was that moment where you said, you know what? I think podcast is where we're going next with this. I mean, how did that hit you? What was your thought process on that?
Well, just this year in general, I think even some of last year, I had been learning more about podcasts and podcasting. Obviously, as you know, this show is turned into a podcast so that if you can't watch live, you can listen later. And I was thinking similarly for All About the Girls, especially when we initially had to postpone from May to September and then quickly from September to May again. So just with the postponements happening, me learning more and more about podcasts and me really wanting to offer everybody another outlet that's ongoing, that allows for some ongoing motivation. I'm a big podcast listener. And so I think this really helped me help others get ongoing motivation and have an outlet for them that isn't just once a year. So it's really all based on me wanting to provide more content for those women that, like me, on Sundays, I food prep and I do all of those things and I clean my house and I pick out my clothes and I try to get my week as set as possible. So I have to make as few decisions as needed as during the week. And I think this is something that I saw as a benefit if it was something I could listen to on a Sunday while I'm doing all of those things to kind of get prepped and ready for the week, offering that and more than once a year. I
love that. That is so cool. So now that we have the podcast version of All About the Girls, what do you think? What kind of impact do you think that's going to have? What are your hopes?
Oh, that's a great question. I think my hopes are just that we are offering more content that is driven to women that are motivated by other women, and how I think that getting them more content and ongoing content and allowing them to kind of embrace all of that and use it to be motivated, I think is the biggest thing for me. And then I think secondarily, it's shouting out and exposing these incredible women that are on the podcast that I am interviewing. It's this great way to, I think, to expose them to the world and for the world to get to know them. I think so often a lot of these women, whether it's the imposter syndrome or just their humble attitude, whatever it is, they almost fly under the radar where people aren't really aware of them. And I want to shout them from the rooftops so that you do know that there's women right in your backyard that are motivating. It doesn't have to be Oprah, although she is super motivating. It doesn't have to be someone at that level. We're all motivating in our own way.
I love that. Now I'm gonna throw a surprise at you. Because it's all been about surprises anyway. So when you and we did our podcast episode, we did kind of like a speed dating kind of question where you threw some rapid fire questions at me.
Yes.
I have a couple for you.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
First one is I'm going to turn the tables on you because you asked me this question and it was so good. If you could have lunch with one woman, present, past, who would it be and why?
Oh my goodness gracious. Oh, that's tough.
I know it's hard when that comes at you like that, right? Which is kind of part of the fun of the podcast.
Yeah. Top of mind, of course, is Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I think with her strength in just all she did for women, all she did for gender equality right now, just being so top of mind, not only because of her passing, but because of all the gender equality that we are trying to make in our world right now. I think she would be one. Sheryl Sandberg is always my answer. And I think she's usually my answer because I just love the route she's taken. I love how strong she is, but in such a classy, elegant way. And I don't necessarily have that. So I think Sheryl Sandberg would be another great one where she has come up through on her own. She's done, things with Facebook, but then she made her own path with Lean In and all of her initiatives with that. And then in her own personal life is so powerful and definitely just doesn't take a lot of time or effort into what other people think about her. And that's really important to me as well.
Fantastic. I love it. Great answer. All right. One more question.
Okay.
You're driving down 8094. You just happen to be driving when there's no road construction, no traffic. What's the one song that when it comes on, you got to turn it up and sing along? What is it?
This is so funny that you said this. Okay. We were just talking about this. A different question, but music that's kind of empowering to us. And it has a lot of curse words. So just know everything. It's not appropriate for all ages, but I will scream sing Kesha's Woman every day of the week. I know it has some curse words in there, but it gives me goosebumps. It is just such a good, empowering song. That's one of the songs that I listen to like on my way to All About the Girls, the event. Like I'm driving there and you have to have, every perfect song that you ever wanted to have on. And so that's one of them that I listen to at that point too.
I love it. I love it. Awesome. Great questions. So excited for the podcast. I could pull a few more out, but I'm thinking maybe probably not a good idea.
Yeah, you're going to give me an ulcer, so that's funny.
I cannot wait. So again, how do people find, if they want to find the podcast, All About the Girls, the podcast, how do they do that?
Yes. So All About the Girls, the podcast, you can currently find that on Spotify. You can find it on Apple Podcasts. You can find it on Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and I believe iHeartRadio just approved us as well. So, and we're working on Pandora and all the other ones. So if it's not on your favorite spot to listen, it will be as soon as possible, but you can just type in All About the Girls, the podcast. Actually, if you're in podcast land, you don't have to type the podcast, but just type All About the Girls. And if it doesn't come up, since it's brand new, type All About the Girls, greatnews.life, and it should come up for those. And you can find us all over the interwebs, anywhere you listen to podcasts. Like I said, almost anywhere you listen to podcasts now, and soon anywhere you listen to podcasts. So you should be able to find it. Great. And then of course, like I said, that event is still happening. It's just when we can. So you can stay tuned for the local event in May of 2021.
I love it. Thank you, Jenny. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm so happy. I'm so proud of this. It has been a labor of love. I have learned a ton and will continue to learn. And I really do want everyone's feedback. So if you're listening and you're saying, wow, this sounds terrible. The first couple, we were learning. Give us a break. However, if you have some input on people you want to hear, people you would love for me to interview, any ideas, anything, please tell us what you love. Tell us what you could see change, and we'll take your input.
Great. Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you, Robin. I love this table turn. We'll have you back. Maybe we'll turn it again and we'll have you back where I interview you next time, or we'll just blow it up and we'll both interview someone else. I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
That would be fun. I like that idea. I like it. Awesome. Good to see you again.
Appreciate it. Oh my gosh, that was so much fun. And it really was a surprise that she interviewed me, or that she had those speed round questions for me. I had no clue. And I am watching the comments come in and, what's one woman you would like to have lunch with? And everybody's coming in. It's so fantastic. I did think of a couple other ones I wanted to mention. So I think on the spot, it's really hard. They're not kidding. I need to be easier on these women that I interview. But Jane Fonda, incredible. Someone tag her in the comments or something. Get her to be on the show. Let me interview you. Another one would be Dolly Parton and Reba McEntire. I just listened to a podcast yesterday that had all of them on it, which was so amazing. So something I definitely wanted to mention, but there's also some really good ones in here. So we asked everybody else, it was kind of giving their input too. So some other people mentioned, Katie Grable said she would like to talk to Harriet Tubman. That's an incredible answer. Kelsey Costello said, I think either AOC or Miley Cyrus, two very different, you are correct, but amazing women, very different, but awesome. Margaret Winters, you said you were happy to find you and can't wait to join in. So thank you. But yes, you also mentioned Amelia Earhart as someone that you would like to talk to. That is another great one. Buffy, I see that you're watching. Yes, love Robin Rock and love this. Thank you. You will, we've got to get your episode for All About the Girls scheduled too. We need you on the podcast. And then Cami Tupiak, yes, Reba. I don't want to shout out everyone else's podcast, but I am a strong proponent for shouting out other women. So let's do that too. If you haven't heard, Reba has a podcast now. Cami, I just blew your mind. It is fantastic. She is lovely. I don't know if you know, but her and the lady, Melissa Peterman, who plays Barbara Jean in the show, Reba, are actually best friends in real life, and they do the podcast together. You're welcome, world. I found that out for you guys. Kelsey Costello said, yes, Jenny Dolly Parton is amazing. I know. And she is absolutely one of the most inspiring people. And I just heard recently on the podcast, Reba's podcast, they did a Dalai Lama or Dolly Parton. Whose quote was it? And it was really hard to tell. It's how inspiring she is. She's just full of my heart. I love her to pieces. So in line with our recent podcast launch, which, as most people know, was a really big deal for me. It was kind of my baby and I loved having it. We also talked to some of our lady lifers to tell us what they thought about the podcast. Let's hear what they had to say.
For me personally, these women have motivated me and inspired me to continue to set the bar high for myself and know that I can make an impact in the community just like them. I think they have provided a comfortable and safe setting for us to listen to their stories, and I think they will continue to motivate us and inspire us for years to come.
Having a podcast that is literally all about the girls is exactly what every strong woman needs in her life. It's a laugh, it's a cry, it's a word of advice, and it's a motivation to keep pushing yourself forward because somebody else has been there and they worked through it and they're doing a pretty good job at doing it. And for a recent college grad as myself, who is a woman just getting into her career, it's everything I needed from a podcast, and it was a word to keep kicking butt and keep moving forward.
I feel like podcasts such as these should exist to celebrate women and the accomplishments they've made. There's so many wonderful women out there doing great things for the community, and that stuff needs to be celebrated more.
It's inspiring for women to have models of successful women in our community to look up to and learn from. The stories of these strong women impact me because listening to their stories, I feel motivated and ready to work on accomplishing my own goals.
I see a special significance in the All About the Girls podcast, being that it is really hyper-local. You're learning from women in Northwest Indiana. And eventually you'll be learning from women all over the world. So I see this being great for not only young women in Northwest Indiana to learn from role models in their area, but also I can see it growing to impact the whole world.
How cute are they? Thank you. First, thank you to all of the lady lifers, not only for supporting the podcast as it grew and as it grew into an actual thing and launched. These women are running up this hill with me every single day. They are absolutely incredible. We have an amazing team here at greatnews.life. And if you don't know, our founder, Chris Mullman, is extremely empowering and really loves to kind of bring strong women up through our company. Our main leaders in the company are women. About 80% of our entire team is women. So we are a very woman-driven company and will continue to be forever. Obviously, we have some great guys on our team. Don't get me wrong. They're incredible as well. But these women have really rallied behind this podcast, the event itself, and all that we're doing here. And it's obvious and apparent. And I'm so thankful to have such an incredible team of ladies that just love what we're doing and are here to celebrate it. So thank you guys. I've got a couple other comments I wanted to mention. Lifelines. So if you've not watched often, so Margaret, I know you mentioned you were new. If you've not watched or you've not watched often, I want to hear your lifelines. So type below in the comments, just tell me one good thing about your life happening right now. We're exclusively positive. So we want to hear your good news. So tell me, post your lifelines down below in the comments. Tell me what is good happening in your life. or if you want to get in on this banter about these amazing women, we can also do that. Let me hear who you want to meet, who you want to have lunch with, living or dead, doesn't matter. And then I want to shout out a couple lifelines. I saw Katie Grable said, my lifeline this week was moving into my apartment. Yay, congrats. The best part, having a community of women around me willing to help in any way they could. Congrats. You're very lucky to have that. As I just said, I'm very lucky to have that too. Yes, having that crew of women that will just come help you. Yes, we're going to load up 17 cars full of stuff. That's okay. So I'm glad you got moved. I'm glad you got into your new place. Congrats to you. That's fantastic. What else do we have here? Steph is here. Steph Madison said, just scheduled a girlfriend weekend. I love that. And I think probably also mentioned, Kayla Hofferth just mentioned, I want to have an empowering women's lunch with all of my close girlfriends and maybe invite Michelle Obama too. Please make sure I'm invited to that. I want to be a part, and we should probably invite, maybe Reba and Jane Fonda and a couple others too, but I am here with you for that entire thing. That would be incredible. Okay. So next up is what I've been waiting for. This is my lifeline, is this next interview. So it's kind of a big surprise for everybody. You might have seen light teasers, but you probably don't know. So this is a big surprise for all of you guys for the special ladies edition. I'm not even going to go into it. I'm not going to give it away. I'm not going to go too far into it. Let's just get right to it. Check it out.
Michelle Gielan is a positive psychology researcher at UPenn and the author of Broadcasting Happiness, the Science of Igniting and Sustaining Positive Change.
World-renowned happiness researchers Sean Acor and Michelle Gielan.
He and his wife, Michelle, are carving out new territory in the latest science on how positive thinking can literally change the trajectory of our lives.
Michelle Gielan, everybody, make sure you pick up her book, Broadcasting Happiness.
There are two sources of information that are way more influential over your health and happiness than wherever you get your news. It's what you say to yourself and what you say to other people, especially in the face of challenges.
Previous CBS News anchor turned positive psychology researcher, Michelle Gielan is the best-selling author of Broadcasting Happiness, a book that shows you how to change your broadcast, thus changing your power. She's dedicated to empowering others to create a positive change in their own lives. Welcome to Great News Weekly, Michelle. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me. And thank you for the awesome work that you do in the world, spreading stories of positivity and positive change. So I'm so grateful to you. And it's so good to see you.
You as well. We've talked through the past just because our paths aligned because of what your work and ours as well. So thank you. For those that don't know, tell us about your past with CBS News and how that led you to becoming a positive researcher.
Yeah, so I worked my way up, as many journalists did, through the ranks, and then ended up working a dream job, which for me was to be in New York, to work at CBS News. And there, while I was there for a few years, I had my own national newscast, the CBS Morning News. The only thing is, when I got there, I realized, as many journalists have, that newscasts are full of stories of murder, death, destruction, natural disasters, bank failures, and all the negativity that we see on the news. And then the recession hits. And so we see people losing their homes, their jobs, their retirement savings. It was during that time that I started to look at the content of the newscast, analyze it more deeply. And what I wanted to understand in particular was, is this just merely a problem of too much negativity on the news, or is there something deeper going on there? In the midst of the recession, we pitched this idea called Happy Week. My producers thought I was a little nuts at that point, but the idea was how you foster happiness in the middle of these great challenges that we're experiencing. So if your home is facing foreclosure, how you take back control and the steps you need to take. If you're fighting with your spouse over money, how you have better conversations. All of our experts came from the field of positive psychology. They just happened to. And for me, that showed me that there was this scientific field that looks at how you help people thrive. And so I ended up leaving CBS. I founded a research institute since then. And I get to be steeped in all of this research that doesn't look at the negative side of life solely, but instead looks at how, if we find ourselves in a challenge, how we cultivate a mindset that helps move us forward, that helps us achieve the outcomes that we're looking for. And in short, what I came to see was that a barrage of negative information, this is whether it's negative news that you're exposed to, or negativity at the office or in a relationship, a barrage of negative information feeds you this lie that your behavior doesn't matter. And that is really the true cancer. When we're just exposed to problem, and at no time are we talking about solutions, our brain starts to believe there's nothing we can do. So Happy Week showed me a new path forward when we're solutions focused. Not only does that change the formula for the news, hopefully, but also it changes the formula for how we live our lives as well.
Incredible. And talk about this thing you mentioned called Your Broadcast. You talk about this a lot. What does this mean, and how can we transform our own broadcasts?
Well, so my big question to everyone when I get the opportunity to speak at companies, which I often do, although these days everything's virtual, I always ask people, what is your top story? As you're talking to people, as they ask you, hey, how are you? What's the first piece of information you're sharing? When we start to realize our power as broadcasters, because we are all broadcasters, it really transforms how we see our power to influence other people. I mean, think about it. We're all transmitting information as we move throughout our day, right? So back when we're in the office, as you move through the office and you're talking to people, whether it's body language, tone of voice, the words you use, we're constantly transmitting information to other people. And the messages that we choose to broadcast either create our success or they hold us back. So in the data, what we've been able to do is quantify that effect. And what I encourage everyone to realize is how powerful they are as broadcasters to influence the people around them.
Oh, I love that. And you've echoed so many of the things that we talk about right here at greatnews.life. So thank you. In honor of RBG, we're talking a lot about and celebrating women and empowerment and all of those things. What is one female in your life that has been empowering or has helped you shape who you are today?
Well, I mean, definitely my mom has been an incredible force in my life. My mom is extremely wise, and all through growing up took the time to be there as someone who could really talk with me about the challenges I was experiencing and help me see them in a new light and a hopefully more advantageous, better light, right? There's lots of studies that we see in the research about how influential our parents are over how we then see our lives throughout the course of it. So yeah, my mom has been an incredible force. I've been really lucky though. I love women. I think women are amazing. And I especially love women who walk the path before us. And so I've luckily had the opportunity to work with so many incredible women through my broadcasting career or, in the volunteering work I've done. And so I've picked their brain, many of them, and to see what their gems of wisdom are.
That's the best advice to anybody. Just pick from all the women in your life. I think that's fantastic. So I'd love to hear if you could give everybody that's watching and listening one piece of advice to just help them positively impact their life. What would it be?
I would say that the best thing you can do is constantly be filling your happiness battery. As a positive psychology researcher who studied this now for more than a decade, and in particular, the connection between optimism and positivity and then your success, the more that we bolster our positive resources, especially first thing in the day, and we recharge our battery, the better we are to serve the people around us. And it's done in very simple ways. So we've been obsessed with distilling from the research and putting into practice in organizations these small positive habits, these 2-minute interventions that help train the brain to see the world and their reality in a more optimistic way. I mean, simple things as write down 3 new and unique things you're grateful for each day. Journal about, for just 2 minutes, the most positive, meaningful moment you've experienced over the past 24 hours. Send a 2-minute positive email praising or thanking someone in your social support network. When you do these kinds of habits more regularly, that actually trains your brain to be better at seeing those elements in your life, those things that are the fuel for our lives. And then in terms of news, because as you know, this is something I've thought deeply about and I'm very passionate about, as you are too. I think it's extremely important to think about your news consumption habits, and in particular, consume news that's going to fuel your life, that's going to open up your mind, give you good ideas. If we're just looking at problems, we actually shortchange ourselves so much. I did a study with Arianna Huffington a couple years ago, and in the first study, we found that just 3 minutes of negative news in the morning can increase your chances of having a bad day by 27%. Meanwhile, in the follow-up study, we found that if you expose your brain not just to problems, but to even just a discussion of potential or actual solutions, you're 20% better at creative problem-solving tasks later in the day. So the more we open our minds up to the people who are already tackling problems or those inspirational stories, the more that we give our brain a leg up on everything that we're doing. And also one other piece of this is, isn't it easier to choose happiness when the people around you are happier? So the more that you send out these positive notes or involve other people in these practices,
yes,
better it is for you, right?
Exactly. So everybody, you heard it here first. Michelle says, tune in every morning to all of our good news.
Exactly. Exactly. And you know, so many people ask me, what are good news sources? And I think that they are hard to find. So to have a resource like what you offer is invaluable. And for people to be able to know that this is a trusted news source, that this is going to not only lift my spirit, but also feed my brain the information it needs to be successful. I mean, that is a winning combination.
Yes, thank you. And you're exactly right. There's nothing on our sites and nothing that we do is fake news. It's just we decide to choose only positive news. All of them are real and good stories, but they're just positive. And I think it's helped me through the pandemic a lot, just getting through that tough time, because I don't have time to focus on the negative. I have so much positive to do and to spotlight that it helps me and has helped me a ton. Just nature of my job has helped me a lot. So I think proof is in the pudding, where I have really not struggled mentally that much during a pandemic because I am surrounded by the positivity. So I think it really is proof of exactly the research you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, one other related note that I think is so important is I've been thinking about this happiness anxiety that so many people are feeling, where if we're feeling positive during a pandemic, oh my goodness, I feel guilty about that, or I should put the brakes on that. And actually, the reality is that the reaction should be completely the opposite. We should be trying to foster higher levels of happiness for ourselves, because it's when our battery is fully charged that we're able to help other people in our community and in the world get through their challenges.
Yes. Oh, so perfect. Well, thank you, Michelle, so much for taking your time with us and being on the show. Shout out to you. I don't know if you can do this on the spot. Can you tell everybody where to find your book, your social media, and find out more about you?
Yeah, so I have tons of resources on my website. Maybe the easiest one to remember if people are listening to this in the car or whatnot is broadcastinghappiness.com. Or you can go to my name, Michelle Gielan, Gielan.com. I invite you to check out, we have a happiness challenge. We've got some amazing assessments that you can test your brain for the 3 greatest predictors of long-term levels of happiness, tons of articles and videos and all that stuff. My aim with all of these digital resources is to empower you to live the best life and then to be able to spread it with others as well.
Yes. Thank you so much for being here and giving us a little bit of positivity in our day and pushing for the positive in the entire nation. Have an awesome afternoon, Michelle, and thanks again for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Take care. I can't stop screaming. I'm just trying to keep it calm. So my screams are currently on the inside. So thank you again to Michelle for being here with us. It was so much fun to get some time with her. And obviously her research, her work with Arianna Huffington and her husband and hers work with Arianna have been so impactful and truly aligned with exactly what we started here at greatnews.life. That's the reasoning behind it. That's, those 2 things happened at 2 different times, but really, truly aligned, and it makes a ton of sense. And there's tons of input, so I want to get through some of this because I don't want to keep you guys, but these comments are awesome. Natalia Ruth said, Michelle Gielan, I'm fangirling so hard. She's so amazing. Also a perfect fit for today. Her research and positivity is everything NWI.life stands by. You are completely correct. That is the best way to say it. I think you said it as eloquently as anybody could. Yes, it's so exciting. I'm so happy to have her. I don't know if she's watching, but goodness, girl, your hair always looks perfect. You always look great. Everything she says is so well spoken. So thank you, Michelle, again, for being a part. Kayla Hofferth is all over this. So Kayla said, she's got two I want to read. She said, I love that thought process. What is your top story? I completely agree. I think this is a great icebreaker. I think mine is wanting to feel connected with others around me on a personal level. I love people, making them happy and comfortable. I love that, Kayla. That's perfect. And yes, you're spot on. She also said, being happy is not hard when you're a positive person. Recharge your battery by giving out the positivity you want in your life. Thank you, Michelle. Such a great episode this week. Thank you, Kayla. It sounds like you are spot on. You are watching with full intent. You're picking up all of those cues. Katie Grable also said, yes, I love it. I spend each morning writing out what I'm grateful for, grounded in gratitude. That is a really great point, and it's something I think personally I would like to start working on. How about I start once a week, and then I'm going to start moving to once a day. That's my goal. I think gratitude is really important. I think knowing what is going well in your life. If someone asks you, how are you today? And you say, oh, I'm really tired. Every time they ask, eventually they're going to stop asking, right? And I think that also then puts that tiredness in the forefront of your mind. And so if you can just stop and just not say that, right? Just find something better to say and something more positive to give, then I think that with writing out what you're grateful for, I think that those two combined could really change what you see, because when your grateful items are top of mind, then so quickly you think of those first. And I think that's really important. So thank you, Katie. That was really good input. I've said all the words. I don't think there's much else I can say, and otherwise I'll just keep screaming, so it's super awkward. But I am fangirling with Natalia. Thank you again, Michelle, for being a part. That was an absolutely awesome interview. Some housekeeping, of course. We are here, as I mentioned earlier, every week, live noon on NWI.life. We also put this up in the world of podcast land, and that is up every afternoon on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, all of those places. Please follow us on Spotify, rate and subscribe on iTunes, do all the things that tells the podcast land that you like us. Follow our pages, NWI.life, LaPorte County.life, Valpo.life, and Portage.life. I will get them out, I swear. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Tell me what's good in the comments. Email me your lifelines for next week, and we will talk to you soon. Have a great one.